So we are here once again, and today's caption with this epigram: our life is a holocaust of the Supreme. That's a beautiful one. In fact, when it is said by Sri Aurobindo, uttered by Sri Aurobindo himself, coming straight from himself, that our life is a holocaust of the Supreme. So we are not here alone in this toiling earth. So it's a great relief for us also to dwell upon this. So we'll just first take all these lines along with the caption one. Once in the vigil of a deathless cage, these grades had marked her giant downward plunge. The wide and prone leap of a Godhead's fall. Our life is a holocaust of the Supreme. The great World Mother, by her sacrifice, has made her soul the body of our state, accepting sorrow and unconsciousness. Divinity's lapse from its own splendor's oove, the many-patterned ground of all we are. So, what is it? Once in the vigil of a deathless cage, these grades had marked her giant downward plunge, the wide and prone leap of a Godhead's fall. So, as we know by now that there are planes, different planes of consciousness, spiritual planes of consciousness that constitutes the ladder of ascent. And it originally formed the steps along which the divine soul descended into evolution, into the inconscient, that is the matter. And this course was taken by the Supreme Nature, or the Prakriti. Prakriti, when the self-manifestation was projected downwards, and it culminated the spirit taking a downward plunge into matter. Kindly keep your microphone mute, please. So, this is the way in which the process of involution takes place. That is, the divine soul takes a plunge through all these planes or grades of consciousness of which we now are aware. Please keep your microphone mute. So this is the way in which the divine soul takes a plunge. And
দীক্ষিত দা, তোমার মাইক্রোফোন আর ক্যামেরাটা অফ করাছুন।
just touch the microphone button. So this is the way in which the divine soul takes the plunge through all these planes of consciousness, right from its unmanifested eternal status downwards, taking a great plunge down into the inconscient, that is matter. And as a consequence, as a result, what we see, out of matter there comes life, out of life there comes mind, and also when mind grows gradually, behind it the work of the psychic also grows gradually, of course taking a long time. So that is the usual way. Now this is what it is written here. Once in the vigil of a deathless gauge, these grades had marked her. Her means the Prakriti, her giant downward plunge, wide and prone leap of a godhead's fall, because her status there is of the supreme, the twin status of Purusha and Prakriti. The Prakriti takes the downward plunge right down into the matter. And then he adds on, our life is a holocaust of the Supreme. This is the epigram of which we are talking. The great World Mother by her sacrifice has made her soul the body of our state. Accepting sorrow and unconsciousness, divinity's lapse from its own splendor's oof, the many-patterned ground of all we are, and by which Sri Aurobindo tells us that man is not left alone here on earth to face something which we call fate. The Creator has also entered into this field of strife and labor, and he too suffers with his creatures, along with all, that is you, me, and all whoever living on this earth, all his creatures, through whatever suffering, whatever toil we go through in our life, we are not alone here. He too has taken the plunge, because we all are a body of this divine soul, or this divine himself or herself, for the same thing, the Divine Mother. So the Supreme is also suffering with us, and there is a reason for the same also. The Supreme lives here in the cosmos as the Universal Inhabitant. He creates all the worlds through the Divine Mother herself, her paramour, his paramour, Supreme's paramour, the other self, and in the individual as indwelling spirit, that is the soul. The Supreme Nature, or the Shakti, that has manifested the universe, has embodied herself and as if taking upon herself all the various movements of nature. It is very complex for us to know how things happen in our life, how things are moving, where from we have come, where we are heading to, what is going to happen tomorrow. Everything is very complex, but for her, she knows the original divine plan under which she is doing it. And for this, she has come down, embodied herself as the nature, as creation, interestingly, leaving her divine status there, up there. She has left all the unbounded bliss and all the powers that she commands there. What she is there? She is not here in the lower nature, because until and unless she comes down and takes upon herself the darkness and obscurity of the lower nature upon herself, that is, all our problems, our difficulties, all our lower nature, then it is well nigh impossible for us, or for that matter, any power on this lower nature which can alter the, which we call, nature of fate. And what is fate? It is something, a transaction between our soul, that is again the divine's representative here, portion here within us, and the outer nature. So, the Divine Mother takes all upon herself, or the Prakriti, or takes all upon herself, all this obscurity, ignorance, darkness, in order that she may work upon all these and ensure for us, for man, something higher which is already written there in the divine plan. But she has to work it out for us. So that is basically what yoga is. The moment one knows how to collaborate in the plan of the divine and become an instrument, then it becomes easier for both for ourselves as individuals and also as a whole, the process of evolution towards Godhead, and that too here itself on earth. So it's a beautiful one, this epigram, and with that comes Sri Aurobindo's assurance that divine is always with us all, and it is not only we who toil and suffer beneath here, as we thought so when we didn't know Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, and we are being led by an unseen hand, and it is the hand of the divine, or rather the Divine Mother, who is gradually taking us through meandering way. So that is it. And as these are short ones, I'd also like to share something more today also, which I'm sure you would like. And it is a day taken off from Amalda's notations which dates back to April 10, 1954. I'll just read out so that we all know how differently the mother used to look at things which we ordinarily miss, or we do not, we do not have the consciousness even to think or perceive in those lines, because we are always born by, always led by our intellectualism. So I'll just read out. It was April 10, 1954. The day proved one of the most decisive in my inner life. Amalda says, I took to the mother some suggestions with regard to Savitri. I'm narrating this because these are also related to Savitri only. So, Amalda says, I took to the mother some suggestions with regard to Savitri. I had written them down. The mother looked strange and said, I can answer without even reading your note. I won't allow you to change even a comma in Savitri. That was mother's version. I knew she was striking out at something which in the past had led me to make some editorial adjustments in 3 letters of Sri Aurobindo in Mother India. There had been 3 related questions about the mother, to each of which he had simply answered yes. I put the questions together, followed by only one yes. I realized afterwards that a needed affirmative emphasis had been watered down by a misguided sense of economical elegance. Later, when the second volume of the first edition of Savitri was under preparation, a sadhak had stressed to the mother the danger of sending the proofs to me. The mother seems even to have passed an order against sending them. But Prithvi Singh and Nirod made urgent representations to her, saying that it would be a great mistake not to let me see the proofs, for I had made very appropriate suggestions in the past, which had been found correct when the typed copy had been compared with the original manuscript. So the mother cancelled her order, but left, of course, the final decision in the hands of Nalini and Nirod. In fact, I, being in Bombay at that period, had no power over what the press would print, since whatever I might propose would have to pass under their eyes. The press was not dealing directly with me. When the proofreading was finished, Nalini wrote to me, thanking me for the important and valuable work I had done. Now, before the new single-volume edition of Savitri was started, I made another long list of suggestions, many of which came to be accepted. The proofs of the new edition were passing through my hands as I was in the ashram at that time. And suggestions again were being made by me. Mother, I said, I am not wanting you to sanction the changing of commas and such things. All I want is that in some sort of publisher's note, we should say that certain passages in parts 2 and 3 did not receive final revision. Otherwise, critics will think that they are what Sri Aurobindo intended them finally to be. The mother exclaimed, Do you think there is anybody in the world who can judge Sri Aurobindo? And how do you know what Sri Aurobindo intended or did not intend? He may have wanted just what he has left behind. How can you say that he did not give the final revision? How can you judge? I said, it is not only my own opinion. Nirod agrees with me, and I think Nolini also. The mother replied, it is presumptuous for anyone to have such an opinion. Who can enter into Sri Aurobindo's consciousness? It is a consciousness beyond everything, and what it has decided, how can anyone know? Then Amanda says, Mother, from the fact that Sri Aurobindo sometimes corrected his own things on our pointing out oversights, we conclude that passages may be there which needed revision. At this point, the mother exploded like a veritable Mahakali. Yes, I know. People used to pester him with letters, pointing out grammatical mistakes and other things. He used to make changes just for the sake of peace. He was very polite and did not let people see what a nuisance they were. But when he and I were together and alone and like this, here she put her two palms together 2 or 3 times to show the intimacy. He used to say, what a bother, what a nuisance. And once he said, but I had a purpose in putting the thing in this way. I wanted it like this. Sri Aurobindo made many concessions out of politeness and a wish to be left in peace. When a great being comes down here to work, he wants peace and not botheration. Yes, he was very polite, and people took advantage of his compassion and misunderstood it and got all sorts of ideas. Sri Aurobindo was polite, but I have made it a point not to be polite. I am not polite at all. The other day, Pavitra brought me somebody's idea about Sri Aurobindo's passing. Somebody said Sri Aurobindo had died because of this or that. I told Pavitra, let him think anything. I simply don't care. The truth will remain what it is. I raised the question, take the epilogue to Savitri, Mother. It comes from an early version and is not equal to the rest of the poem. In some places it is almost like a sort of anticlimax as regards the plane of spiritual inspiration. At this moment, Nirod walked in and said, Sri Aurobindo asked me, what remains now to be done in Savitri? I replied, the book of death and the epilogue. He remarked, we shall see about them later. The mother turned to Nirod and said, that may be his way of saying that nothing more needed to be done. We can't form any conclusions. At most, you may write a publisher's note to say, we poor, within inverted commas, we poor blind ignorant human beings think Sri Aurobindo did not intend certain things to be final version. And we are giving our opinion for what it may be worth. Close. Just then a black lizard came and stood at Nirod's feet and looked up at him. The mother saw it and said, it seems to have a fascination for your feet. Why? Could it be symbolic? Nirod, that is for you to say. The mother's whole outburst made me wonder about my discussions through the years with Sri Aurobindo over Savitri, the innumerable comments I used to make, and he used to welcome and consider patiently. Was he just being polite with me? It hurt very much to think that. It also seemed impossible, non factual, but I tried to open my being to the mother and to accept wholly what she had said. I thanked her for the new outlook she had given me and bowed down to her. She smiled and blessed me. She had made in me a wide opening. I opened out into a sense of Sri Aurobindo's vastness and divineness. Something in the physical mind seemed broken, and to make room for the higher and wider consciousness. Later, the physical mind attempted a strong comeback, and I passed through a whole afternoon of severe conflict. Should I accept the mother's statement without reservation? May it not be that Sri Aurobindo's discussions with me on Savitri were an exception to his practice of being merely polite? But to insist on an exception and to refuse to accept the opposite showed only the resistance of ego, of amour proper, the intellect's pride and vanity. I felt I must reject all these self regarding attitudes and truly grant that Sri Aurobindo might have been nothing more than polite and compassionate in considering all my suggestions to him. Then my ego could be thrown out and my physical mind become clear and grow receptive to the vast divine consciousness of both Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. I choose to take without any question her words, however contrary they might appear to my own sense of factuality. Moreover, I said to myself, your heart will not go anywhere else in search of a guru. All your hope and help are in this ashram. Whatever the pain, submit. You have no alternative. But at the end, you will surely find light and delight as Mother's gift through every move of hers. Now, for the first time, even in my most outer awareness, I realized what she and Sri Aurobindo truly were. The whole poise of physical being experienced a change. A new life began, and I knew then that a fundamental obstacle, that is, intellectual self esteem, had essentially disappeared. What is of extreme interest to note is the sequel to the whole incident. Sometime afterwards, when I was putting together the letters which Sri Aurobindo had written to me on Savitri to serve as a supplement in the last part of the volume, I spoke to the mother of an introductory note to them. She consented to listen to what I had a mind to write. In that note, most of the points which I had previously put to her, but which she had rejected, came in again, amidst some other matters. She approved all of them unconditionally. And when I proposed that this note might go as a footnote in small print, she expressed her wish that it should go as a real introduction in its own right. I learned how the state of mind in which we approach the mother and the attitude we bring to any situation related to her determines the consequences. A second lesson was that the mother's actions, no matter how bewildering, are directed always towards the flowering of our true soul. So, this is a very interesting realization on the part of Amalda, which can help us also, because all of us has this kind of an intellectual tinge behind us. Sometimes it crops up, sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time, yes. So, what we can learn from this is to be very, very open to the Divine Mother, leaving aside our reasoning mind, our intellectualism, that we know a lot. In fact, we are veritable zero. If she can, the mother herself, in her prayer, one of her prayers and meditations, she writes like this: I'm a veritable zero. If she can write like this, just imagine what we are then. So, these are small lessons on our way which can always help us, and we will be trying to have access to all these whenever we meet, time permitting, of course. So that's it. In fact, I also wanted to share today another thing which actually is a part of that epigram which we discussed earlier. And like he said that our life is a holocaust of the Supreme. In fact, you will find reference in the Mother also, what Sri Aurobindo writes. I'll just read out this also because it is very important. This you will find in chapter 6 of the Mother by Sri Aurobindo. The Mother not only governs all from above, but she descends into this lesser triple universe. Impersonally, all things here, even the movements of the ignorance, are herself in veiled power, and her creations in diminished substance, her nature body and nature force. And they exist because, moved by the mysterious fiat of the Supreme to work out something that was there in the possibilities of the infinite, she has consented to the great sacrifice and has put on like a mask the soul and forms of the ignorance. So now we can understand how we form a part of her body. All of us are within her. In fact, she has taken all of us, including our sorrows, our difficulties, our troubles, everything, our suffering, all unto herself. Then he adds, but personally too, she has stooped to descend here into the darkness. Why? Because that she may lead it to the light, into the falsehood and error, that she may convert it to the truth, into this death, that she may turn it to godlike life, into this world pain and its obstinate sorrow and suffering, that she may end it in the transforming ecstasy of her sublime Ananda. In her deep and great love for her children, she has consented to put on herself the cloak of this obscurity, condescended to bear the attacks and torturing influences of the powers of the darkness and the falsehood, born to pass through the portals of the birth, that is the death, taken upon herself the pangs and sorrows and sufferings of the creation, since, mark these lines, since it seemed that thus alone could it be lifted to the light and joy and truth and eternal life. This is the great sacrifice called sometimes the sacrifice of the Purusha, but much more deeply the holocaust of Prakriti, the sacrifice of the Divine Mother. So whatever troubles, sufferings, problems, difficulties we go through in our life, let us always remember without fail that it is she who is always with us at every moment in our life. It might seem to be unending at times, and those are the moments when people do mistakes. Take a wrong course. But for us, we should always remember that the Divine Mother is with us, and she being with us is taking us always in spite of these time-bound, temporary crisscrosses, meandering ways, detours to our destined goal, that is the promise of immortality beckoning us from afar, and that too in this world itself, on this earth itself. Jai Ma.